The snow had already begun to cover the streets like a white blanket when one heartbreaking sight changed a father's life forever. On Christmas Eve, while people hurried home carrying colorful gifts and warm meals, a tired single dad noticed two tiny girls sleeping together on a pile of discarded cardboard beside a trash container. Their small hands clung tightly to each other as if they believed that holding on was the only thing keeping them safe in the world. Their thin coats were soaked from melting snow, their faces were pale from hunger, and a faded stuffed rabbit rested between them like the last piece of comfort they owned. He almost kept walking because life had already given him more burdens than he thought he could carry. But something about those little girls stopped him in his tracks. What he would discover before Christmas morning would leave him completely stunned and change every life connected to that cold winter night forever. Before we continue, if you believe kindness can still change lives and that everyone deserves a second chance, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment telling us where you're watching from, share this story with someone who believes in hope, and subscribe to Kindness Speaks. Your support helps us share more true-to-heart stories that remind the world compassion still exists. Michael Harper had never imagined becoming both mother and father to his 8-year-old son, Ethan. 3 years earlier, a sudden illness had taken away his wife, leaving behind an empty chair at the dinner table and a silence that never truly disappeared. Every day since then had become a careful balance between working long hours as a delivery driver, paying bills that always seemed too high, helping Ethan with schoolwork, and trying to convince himself that tomorrow would somehow be easier. There were mornings when he skipped breakfast so his son could have enough to eat. There were evenings when he smiled only because Ethan needed to believe everything would be okay. Christmas had once been their happiest season, but now it only reminded Michael of everything they had lost. That Christmas Eve was especially difficult. His employer had reduced work hours, his rent was overdue, and the few gifts he managed to buy Ethan came from a second-hand store. Even those simple presents had required weeks of saving. Michael felt guilty because he wanted to give his son the magical holiday he remembered from years before, but life had taught him that love often had to replace expensive surprises. After finishing his last delivery, he decided to walk home through an older part of town instead of paying for transportation. The freezing wind cut through his jacket, but saving a little money mattered more than comfort. As he passed behind a row of closed shops, he noticed what first looked like a pile of blankets beside overflowing trash bins. Then one of the blankets moved slightly. He slowed down. His heartbeat quickened. As he stepped closer, he realized two little girls were sleeping there, curled together beneath worn-out coats that barely covered them. They could not have been older than 6 years old. Their cheeks were red from the cold, and their shoes were far too small for growing feet. Even in sleep, one girl's tiny hand remained wrapped protectively around her sister's fingers. Michael looked around desperately, expecting frightened parents or a nearby homeless family, but the alley remained silent except for the distant sound of church bells announcing Christmas Eve. He gently knelt beside them and noticed they were shivering. The older-looking twin slowly opened her eyes but did not scream or run. Instead, she looked at him with the exhausted expression of a child who had learned not to expect miracles. She quietly explained that they were waiting for their mother to come back. She had left hours earlier saying she would find food. They had waited until they became too tired to stay awake. Neither girl knew where they actually were or how long they had been alone. Michael felt a pain in his chest unlike anything he had experienced since losing his wife. He knew he could not leave them there. He called emergency services, wrapped the girls in his own winter coat, and carried them to a nearby heated cafe while they waited for help. The cafe owner served warm soup without asking for payment after seeing the children's condition. For the first time that night, the twins smiled faintly. Authorities soon arrived and began searching for the girls' family. Their names were Lily and Lucy. They carried no identification except for the old stuffed rabbit with faded stitching. There were no missing person reports matching them. Shelters nearby had never seen them before. The mystery only deepened as every search produced more questions than answers. Because every children's shelter was already overcrowded due to the severe winter weather, social workers asked whether Michael could provide temporary emergency care for one night while they continued their investigation. He hesitated. His apartment was tiny. His finances were already stretched beyond their limit. Yet as he looked into the frightened eyes of the twins, he knew his answer before speaking. When Ethan opened the apartment door and saw his father carrying two unfamiliar girls, surprise quickly turned into concern. Without complaining, he brought his own blankets, offered them his favorite hot chocolate, and even insisted they sleep in his room while he made himself comfortable on the living room sofa. Watching his son display such kindness reminded Michael that although money had become scarce, compassion had never disappeared from their home. Christmas morning arrived quietly. Instead of expensive gifts and grand celebrations, the apartment filled with laughter that had been missing for years. Ethan shared every present he had received. The twins had never decorated a Christmas tree before, so the three children created ornaments from colored paper, old ribbons, and recycled cardboard. Their handmade decorations looked imperfect, yet to Michael they were more beautiful than any expensive ornaments sold in stores because each one represented hope growing where despair had once lived. Days turned into weeks as investigators continued searching for answers. They eventually discovered that the girl's mother had collapsed from severe illness several streets away on Christmas Eve. She had been taken unconscious to a hospital without identification, making it impossible to connect her with her missing daughters. When she finally regained consciousness, her first desperate words were about finding Lily and Lucy. Michael felt relieved that the twins' mother was alive, but another surprise waited. Hospital staff revealed that the woman, named Sarah, had once lived a stable life with her husband until a devastating accident claimed his life several years earlier. Medical debt, job loss, and rising housing costs slowly destroyed everything she had built. She fought tirelessly to keep her daughters safe, moving from one temporary shelter to another until every option disappeared. On that freezing Christmas Eve, she had gone searching for food after promising her daughters she would return quickly. She never imagined illness would prevent her from keeping that promise. Michael visited Sarah with the twins. Their reunion filled the hospital room with tears that no one tried to hide. Lily and Lucy clung to their mother so tightly that even nurses quietly wiped away tears while watching. Michael believed the story had reached its ending. But fate had another astonishing chapter waiting. While helping Sarah recover paperwork needed for housing assistance, an elderly social worker noticed an old family photograph tucked inside Sarah's belongings. She stared at it in disbelief. Standing beside Sarah's late husband was a young woman Michael instantly recognized. It was his late wife, Emily. The discovery shocked everyone. As records were carefully examined, the truth slowly emerged. Years earlier, before marriage and before life had taken them down different paths, Emily and Sarah had grown up together in the same children's home. They had been inseparable, promising each other that one day they would create families filled with love. Life separated them after they aged out of care. Addresses changed. Phone numbers disappeared. They spent years searching without success. Emily had often spoken about a childhood friend she could never find again. Michael remembered countless evenings listening to those stories but had never known Sarah's full name. Now, by an unimaginable twist of fate, he realized the little girl sleeping beside the trash on Christmas Eve belonged to the family his late wife had searched for until her final days. Michael sat in silence as memories flooded back. Emily had always believed that people crossed paths for a reason. She often said kindness had invisible threads connecting strangers long before they ever met. Looking at Sarah and the twins, Michael finally understood what she meant. Instead of walking away after Sarah recovered, Michael remained involved. He helped her secure housing, introduced her to employers willing to give second chances, and watched Ethan become like an older brother to Lily and Lucy. Weekends became family dinners. Holidays became shared celebrations. Loneliness slowly gave way to belonging. Months later, the local newspaper featured their incredible Christmas story. Readers from across the community offered furniture, clothing, books, school supplies, and job opportunities. Donations poured in, not because people pitied Sarah, but because they saw courage refusing to surrender. Volunteers helped renovate her small apartment. Teachers ensured the twins received extra support at school. Neighbors who had never spoken before became lifelong friends. Michael often reflected on how close he had come to simply walking past that alley. One hurried step could have changed everything. Instead, one small act of compassion created a chain of miracles reaching far beyond a single family. Years passed. Ethan graduated with honors, inspired to become a social worker helping vulnerable children. Lily dreamed of becoming a nurse after remembering those who cared for her mother. Lucy wanted to teach young children that hope should never disappear, even during life's darkest winters. Sarah rebuilt a stable life filled with gratitude instead of fear. Every Christmas Eve, the two families returned to the same alley carrying warm meals, blankets, winter clothing, and gifts for people experiencing homelessness. They never forgot where their story truly began. Michael always looked toward the spot where he first saw two tiny girls sleeping beside discarded trash. Instead of sadness, he now felt overwhelming gratitude because that painful moment had led to healing for everyone involved. One snowy evening, Lily quietly placed the old stuffed rabbit beneath a decorated Christmas tree at the community shelter. The faded toy had once symbolized survival. Now it represented something even greater. It reminded every child who saw it that no matter how forgotten someone may feel, kindness has the power to rewrite even the darkest chapter. Perhaps the greatest miracle of that Christmas was not that Michael found two lost girls. It was that four lonely hearts discovered the family they never knew they still had. Love had quietly waited for the right moment to bring broken lives together, proving that miracles often arrive wearing ordinary clothes and asking only for someone willing to stop, care, and help. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, share it with your family and friends, subscribe to Kindness Speaks, and leave a comment to help this message of compassion reach more people around the world. Before you go, we have one special request. Please comment, "Kindness always finds a way, red heart," if you believe one small act of compassion can completely change someone's life. Your words may inspire someone who desperately needs hope today. Thank you for spending these moments with us. May this story remind you that sometimes the greatest Christmas gift is not something wrapped in paper, but a simple choice to care when everyone else walks away. And somewhere, perhaps closer than you think, someone is waiting for exactly that kindness.